Hello and welcome to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Rachael is a speaker, inspirational author, and an overcomer. As Rachael is walking through her own journey of grief, she's challenging others to persevere and overcome their own circumstances. Find out more at rachelflick.com. Here now is your host, Rachael Flick.
Hey friends, welcome back. It's another episode of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. I am excited to have a conversation with my producer Mike today around relationships, kind of how to handle conflict and what boundaries look like. So I want you to come into this conversation with us, and I want you to think about a relationship that you're having that is frustrating you a little bit, and just pray right now and ask for wisdom and discernment moving forward. Hey, Mike, welcome to the Hopecast. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thanks for having me, Rachael. It's always a good time when I join you on the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. And I want to remind our listeners, if you've missed any last episodes of the Hopecast, you can go to rachelflick.com and check it out there, because you can find out all the places where to listen to this podcast at. In addition, you could even listen to it there. And while you're there, you can find out about all things Rachael Flick at rachelflick.com.
rachelflick.com. I feel fancy that I have a username.
It's like your whole name, so it's like even easier. It's not
It's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. That's what it is.
I know. It's funny. Well, okay, yes. Come find me at rachelflick.com. There's a lot of good content on there, links to the podcast, blog posts, my email, and cute pictures of me and my kids. It's fun.
Yeah, so if people are interested in me and like maybe following me, Rachael.
Yeah, they should, because you are an incredible producer.
Thank you. On Instagram, it's very simple, at PFC Audio Video. I got all kinds of funny pictures of my dog and other things of that nature.
Yes, and lots of red. Mike loves the color red. You're going to see it.
I do indeed.
I think Mike and I are a little slap happy today. We're going to giggle through this conversation about relationships and boundaries. That's good. Maybe we need a little light touch to difficult relationships.
That's right. As we look around in our world today through social media, TV, and everything else, we've seen that there's a lot of conflict in relationships.
Absolutely.
And people are wondering how to handle that conflict. So my question to you is regarding boundaries, Rachael. If you're in a conflict with someone and they don't even know it, how do you approach that to let them know that that boundary is being crossed?
I think conflict resolution is one of the main issues that I talk to friends and clients with every single week, and just walking into difficult spaces with people that we either have to be in from work, or that we are in a family with, or friends that we care about. And it's just one of these core life skills. And a lot of us don't really get it growing up because it requires a lot of self-awareness to know how to deal with it. You know that you're upset, you know that it didn't feel good, you know that it's not going well, but you're really not sure what to do about it. And so that's kind of a problem of humanity. I was talking with my kids this week, and they were telling me some encounters of things that were happening in the classroom and with other kids. And I was just, my son was telling me about some of his schoolmates and how to communicate with them. And I just said, you know what, buddy, here's some basic ideas, but these are people problems, and people problems are never resolved quickly and easily because people are messy. And so I'm going to pray about this, and I'm going to sit down with you, and we're going to talk about some strategies that you can use for, people who are being unkind or, creating difficulty in the relationship. And my kids are 10. So this is just what it is to be a person and to have relationships. So I think it's really good that we're tackling this today.
What do you do, Rachael, if the conflict is with someone who is close to you, such as a family member, a close friend, or someone else? I mean, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you have to look at is the relationship valuable enough for you to engage the conflict? Because if someone has hurt your feelings or offended you, and you don't really have relationship with them, or the amount of energy that will be required from you to resolve that conflict isn't really worth it for you, then you can choose the path of least resistance, and that's okay. But if this is someone that you care about, that you have a friendship with, who is an important person in your life, and you want to see the relationship improve going forward, then that's the first step is, do I want to engage this conflict? The second step would be to kind of do a self-scan of personal awareness of what are your emotions around this. And I love howwelove.com. Kay and Milan Yurkovich have some amazing freebies of emotional soul words. And I recommend that you go and you print that off and even like stick that on your fridge. This was a really big growth point for me of just being able to put actual words to my feelings. And then the science behind that is that when we put words to our emotions, it actually helps begin to dissipate the emotion and for us to process through what we're feeling. And so you need to know what you are feeling before you go and approach that person.
Could you go ahead and give us that website once again?
howwelove.com. And they also have an amazing book about attachment and relationships, which would probably give the readers of the How We Love book and content a lot of insight about the conflicts they are having in relationship. Attachment theory tells us if we are avoiders, pleasers, vacillators, and those things, when they come in conflict with different styles in relationship, cause a lot of strain. So not only is their soul words printout awesome, but all of their content is really good.
That sounds really good. Okay, so Rachel, I was thinking for myself, just as I'm listening to you talk, that if I come up to a situation and I need to resolve some conflict, but I feel like there's just like a brick wall there, I may not want to go there, Rachel. I may just want to say, you know what? I really don't want to do this. I mean, I just kind of want to turn the other way and just get on with my life. What would you do in that situation, especially if it's someone that you're in conflict with, that you're close with, and that you love, but you just don't want to go there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I see this a ton in social media. There's a lot of really pretty memes that say something along the lines of, I'm going to do whatever is best for me, and I'm going to cut out anything and anybody that is not about my happiness. And that is a concept that comes out of a worldview called secular humanism. And it's basically like we as individuals are the biggest deal in the world, and whatever works for us is what's most important. And it has this tiny kernel of truth, but there is some things in it that are wrapped around it that are pretty destructive. And the kernel of truth is that you are valuable, you are worthy, you are a creation of God, and you should be in relationships that are healthy and fulfilling, and that you are in mutual spaces together. But that doesn't mean that you deserve happiness or that everybody in your life is going to make you happy. And if they don't, you have full rights to cut them off. And so, whether it's from the belief that you shouldn't be made unhappy by someone who has created conflict or you've created conflict, or if it's just because you hate conflict. I know so many people who just want to throw up at the idea of talking to somebody about something that's hard or might hurt their feelings or make them vulnerable. And so they're like, you know what? I'm out. I'm not doing this. Yeah. And that's really a lack of the skill set to engage the conflict, because healthy conflict actually creates deeper intimacy in all relationships. If you have a relationship that is proven by conflict, you are going to have a much deeper bond with that person and a lot more trust than someone who you've either walked away from or pretended that everything's fine and swept it under the rug, or just not been around that person long enough to have had something to disagree about. So healthy conflict really does get you closer to your goals of better relationships.
Yeah, that's good, Rachel. Okay, so I would like to make this simple for our listeners.
Yeah, let's give him an example.
Okay, so let's do something work-wise. Okay, so I'm at work and I got a text, Joe. We'll call him Joe for some reason or another. And I send Joe a text. I told him, hey, I got your report done that you were asking for, and it's done. Please let me know if you have any changes. And I send it to him. And then I don't hear from Joe, but I see Joe in the office a couple of days later, and he seems really angry with me. And then I find out from someone else that Joe's really upset because I didn't do this report up to his standards, but he didn't relay that to me. And so now I'm ticked off. And I want to talk to him, but I don't know how to do it because he's higher up than me. Rachel, help.
Yeah, that conflict, especially with people in leadership with us, over us, is super hard. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is get curious, right? As opposed to assuming that we know. Like, first of all, like he might have been having like a bad day. Like maybe he ate some dairy or something and you thought he was angry and you assumed, right? We do this all the time. Like
we do.
We assume that someone's going to be mad at us. And so we read emotions or we make, maybe they are feeling negative emotions, but maybe it's not about us. And so if we're afraid of someone being upset with us, afraid of losing our job, afraid of being rejected, we're more likely to see that through a lens of, this is about me. So that's number one, is like, okay, is it possible that this is not about me? Because the vast majority of people are way more concerned about their life than they are about yours. Mm-hmm. And so they spend far less time criticizing and judging us than we think they do. And a lot of that's about our own harsh inner critic and judge. And so get curious with yourself. Spend some time, have a conversation. Doesn't have to be really extensive, but with someone you trust, spouse, mentor, friend, counselor, and just say, hey, this is what's going on for me, and see if they reflect anything back to you that would be helpful that you could take into this coming conversation with your boss. And then once you actually make time to speak with your boss, and I'm sure that you would be feeling, sick to your stomach and, like
absolutely
people hate this,
I know.
And, but just to say, here is my perception. Is it possible that you were upset with me? Did I not make your expectations? Was there a miscommunication? Is there something that I could have done better? And so by asking questions, you've opened the floor for them. You've come in a humble posture. Like if you're going to come in with dukes up and being defensive, you are immediately setting a tone for a conflict that probably won't resolve well. So not being demanding of the outcome or forceful of like, so like, here's like a backhanded apology. Like, so sorry I ticked you off. Like, I wish I was a better employee, man. I really could have done that report better. Like what you just said to me is that you're sorry for not performing, but the way that you said it to me and the tone that you came at me made me immediately put my guard up when that happens.
Right. Okay. So what if you come to a situation, Rachel, where Joe and I have had some tension in the past? Do you think it's wise to have someone else with you in the room when you ask these questions? Or is this just something you should handle by yourself? And also this question, Rachel, are you doing this face-to-face? Or is this through text, on the phone, or
gosh,
emails?
I can't even tell you how many clients I've had read me text messages that were like full novellas. Like it blows my mind the things that people are willing to do over text. Breakups, like tell somebody you're pregnant. But here's the thing, and that feels safer because we're like, oh my gosh, I got the phone and the world between us. 80% of conversation is tone, body language, and facial expressions. And then a remaining 10% is context, right? And so you are losing a massive amount of information if you choose to have hard conversations via text. And I myself have had so many things where it's like there could have been a typo, right? That's not like an obvious typo, or that person knew exactly what they meant, but what they communicated didn't communicate well to me, and I didn't understand what they were trying to say. And then I'm over here trying not to take it personally, but what it looked like in the text message looked like they're upset with me. And then when I go and I say, hey, can we just get a phone call really quick? Or can I see your face on FaceTime and just like, is this what you meant? And almost inevitably, it diffuses the intensity because I'm seeing their facial expressions and hearing the tone of their voice, and it brings a very different, it brings a really different vibe to the conversation, and it allows for two people to play off of each other, and then I'm not nearly as much in my head about what I am afraid might be going on, right? Like we do this worst case scenario thing called catastrophizing, where we just take it and it's like, oh my gosh, like they hate me, I'm a terrible person, or, you know, they always do this, or, you know, we read into these scenarios. And so you mentioned though that Joe and you have had a tense relationship in the past. And like, how do you do that when this is a pattern and not just a one-time deal? So I love this tool. It's called FIT. Frequency, intensity, and type. And it's actually created for the fitness world to help diversify workouts, but I love it to apply to situations with relationships and people that are kind of in the gray space, honestly. Because there's no black and white, hard and fast rule of like, well, you've had a tense relationship, and so, you know, this is how you handle it. So frequency is how often do you have conflicts or tension or give each other side eye. And then intensity is like, okay, you know, we create this scale of 0 to 10 as counselors because emotions and intensity is difficult to wrap. It's not math, right? So we give it a little math to give you this subjective scale. So, you know, side eye would be like a 1 or a 2 on the intensity scale. So if he's always giving you side eye, that's not very intense. If I worked in a restaurant one time and our GM had a real temper, and I mean, he would be back in the back of the kitchen just screaming. And I mean, the mood was tense, right? That's pretty intense. Like to have your boss screaming at you about the speed of, you know, the assembly line. And so that would be closer to a 9 or a 10, right? Okay. And then the last one is type. So what is actually happening, right? Yelling, nasty emails. Is there passive aggression happening? Are you being overlooked for a promotion because, you know, they have an axe to grind with you, right? And so looking at all of those things. So when we look at frequency, intensity, and type of those interactions with Joe, we have to weigh out what's going on in the past to see what we need to do in our next step of the conflict.
Okay, so Rachel, what about if you're in a relationship and you're having some conflict and the other person in the relationship is not responding to you and you guys are deadlocked and you're being hurt in this relationship and you're kind of throwing your hands up? What do you do in that situation?
So I view conflict resolution on a scale, right? And I do little conflict resolution with my kids all day long. I'm sorry I misunderstood, you know, what you said, or could you please apologize to your brother for pouring ice on him in the shower, for instance.
Yikes.
Right? So we do little conflict resolution in our house all the time.
Okay.
So that's like the base. And then we move forward into greater infractions or, you know, big shows of emotion where tempers are lost and words are said. And, you know, that's the thing is you will not remember what you fought about, but you will remember what was said. Like that cutting remark that you threw out in the heat of an argument, like you won't even remember what it was about, but you'll remember somebody telling you that you were worthless or failure or ugly or calling you a name. And so that we live in the reality of being human and we lose our tempers and we say things we regret and that hurt other people. And so when we are well-intentioned, we can take ownership of ourselves. That's another really important point in conflict resolution is the only thing you can control is yourself. You cannot demand that other person apologize to you, that they even acknowledge the experience. They may need to write themselves into the storyline as the victim for their whole life narrative. And so in order to apologize to you, they have to give up being a victim. And most people there's a lot of people who are really committed to never giving up that victim stance. And so they are not going to acknowledge the conflict and they are not going to apologize to you. And so you don't have control over that, but you do need to find peace in your own heart, regardless of how someone else chooses to treat you. And so what do? you when you're deadlocked and you've tried to resolve the conflict and they simply refuse to see it, or don't have empathy for a different perspective, or are a truly broken, abusive person and just perpetuate hurt in your life. And I don't recommend cutoffs very often in a relationship where you cease communication with people. I really believe that relationships are our training ground where we grow in our relationship with ourselves, others, and God. And if you have a similar story of hard people and a revolving door in your life, you need to realize that you are the common denominator in these relationships, and that you need to do some self-evaluation of why you're having the same conflict with different people in that way. And so I can say for myself, in relationships with authority growing up, I really struggled with rebellion. I'm an 8. I'm the challenger. I know that I provoked a lot of people over time. Never. I'm so sweet and demure. Just growing up and having these same conflicts. So I had to look at myself and go, why am I perpetually experiencing this same critique or frustration or people cutting me off in this role in my life? And that took me into a spiritual growth journey. So I'm just going to invite you that whatever this relationship is, that it is an invitation for growth for you, regardless of what the other person decides to do. But here's the thing is that the Apostle Paul said, wherever it's possible for you, be at peace with all men. As far as it depends on you, be at peace with all men. And so that's not as far as it depends on your mom or your friend or your boss or your spouse. That's you. Okay. And so some people will choose not to resolve conflict with you, even if you're amazing, even if you go to counseling, even if you're kind and patient and curious and have used all of the tools, and you will just hit a wall. Or offenses, abuse will be so egregious that there just isn't a tremendous amount of grace for those kind of abuses in a relationship, domestic violence situations. Those are not places, like if you are physically unsafe, those are places where you need to take action quickly and to come into a situation in a scenario that is more safe for you. So I think that the conflict that happens around this is that, especially in the Christian culture, we get the ideas of love and boundaries separated, when the truth is love and boundaries are unified. And you'll hear a lot that, if you love somebody, you have to forgive them like an infinite amount of time. But the thing about forgiveness, it doesn't say that what they did isn't wrong. It doesn't say that you aren't continuing to be in pain from it. And it doesn't say that you have to permit them to continue to have access in your life so that they can keep hurting you. And that is a huge point of the foundation of forgiveness being, Jesus said 70 times 7, and 7 is the number for completeness or fullness. And so what he was saying was like an infinite amount of wholeness and forgiveness, and really allowing people to be released from the bitterness of entrapment in a relationship. And so when you reach that point and the frequency, intensity, and type has taken you to a place and there is no resolution to be had, there are times when you do need to separate yourself from people who are harmful in your life. And that's a very different message than you're not making me happy, you're not helping me live my best life, you have to go, right? That's a very selfish, self-centered mindset that is all about us. But then the flip side of the same coin is that in order to be selfless, I have to permit people to do anything and everything for as long as they would like in my life. And those are two very dysfunctional pieces of the same experience. And so when someone will not resolve with you, when you have made attempts over time, and you've brought in wise counsel into your life, your counselor, your mentor, your friend, and you are in a roadblock, sometimes the only thing that you can do is step back and pray.
As I was thinking about the words that you were saying, I realized that this is a process. Like, this doesn't happen overnight. Mm-mm. And if I may, Rachel, I'd like to share a little story of, I grew up in an abusive home. And just fast forward all the way till I'm 18 years old. and I received the Lord in my life. The Lord spoke to me and told me that I was going to forgive my father for all the things he did to me within 5 years. And I remember saying, Rachel, no chance, no way. Like, you have my life. I want you to be my Lord, but that's not happening. I get to hate my dad for the rest of my life. So fast forward, 5 years later, I'm 23 years old, and I can't shake this feeling, Rachel, that I'm supposed to talk to my dad and forgive him. I can't shake it. And so I had some people praying for me. And there was one night I had my friend over, Roy, and we're talking at my house. And I said, Roy, I've just got to tell you something. He goes, what's up, Mike? And I said, 5 years ago, I feel like the Lord came to me and told me I needed to forgive my father. And I feel like I'm at the crossroads right now where I need to do that. And I'll never forget, Roy just looked straight at me and said, Mike, I got to tell you right now, if God tells you to do something, just do it. He goes, just call him right now. I'll be here right here with you. So I called him up, said, hey, Dad. He lived in Los Angeles, California. I lived in Anaheim, California. And I'd see him maybe twice a year. I said, hey, Dad, it's me, Mike. And he goes, yes. And I said, hey, can I come see you tomorrow? I want to talk to you about something. And you're sure? Absolutely. So I hung up and Roy prayed for me. And I remember driving up to Los Angeles the next day. I was thinking, what in the world am I going to say? I'm just going to be obedient here, God, but I hate this guy for what he did and all the conflict that we've had over the years, and we still have. And so I went there, met him, parked my car, met him, and we're walking on Martin Luther King Boulevard, which is, if you're familiar with California and Los Angeles, it's right across the street from the LA Coliseum and USC, the campus. And I was walking, and we're just quiet. I remember he's smoking a cigarette, and I thought of Nehemiah, how Nehemiah threw up that arrow prayer, that quick prayer before he had to go talk to the king. And I just said, Lord, give me something. And as soon as I said that, my dad said, now, I heard you're going to some other church now, you and your brother. What's that all about? And the floodgates just opened, Rachel.
It was a trigger.
It was a trigger. And I just started talking about the Lord. The only thing I knew how to do, I just shared the gospel. We crossed the street. We sat on the grass. I could still see the picture of him, Rachel, sitting there on the grass. And he had a lisp, and he had these glasses. He kept pulling them up as I'm pouring through the scriptures. It's about a half hour, I think we talked, and it seemed like it was 3. And we got up and we walked over in front of the LA Coliseum. It was like a movie, my friend. It was like a movie. And I said to him, you know, Dad, you can receive the forgiveness of all your sins. But before that, I want to tell you that I forgive you. I forgive you for what you've done to me. And he reached out his hands. He said, I'm so sorry for what I did to your mom, and to all your siblings. And we shook hands. I said, this is great, Dad. But you've got to get it right here with God. And Jesus died for you, and it's time for you to receive his forgiveness. And I'll never forget, Rachel, and I know a lot of our listeners could be thinking the same thing for the stuff they've done in their life. He said, Rachel, how in the world could Jesus forgive me for what I've done to you and your mom and your siblings? I said, look, I don't get it, but all I know is this, Dad, is that he died on the cross for your sins. And he suffered. And if you ask him into your life, he will, and you ask for forgiveness, he will forgive you and receive you into his kingdom. And I said, then you better receive him, Dad, just in case you die. And he said, I want that. And I led him to a prayer of salvation, and he received Christ as his Savior. It was a few years later where he did pass away. And it was a powerful story for sure. But all that to say is, Rachel, is that it was a process. It was not an overnight situation. And in this process, Rachel, there was anguish. There was questioning. There was, is this even real? Can this even happen? Does it need to happen? I would say, and I'm no counselor, but I would say this, yes, it needs to happen for your own soul, for your own sanity, for your own peace.
when we remain in a space of unforgiveness, it's like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die. And so the way that you chose to forgive, despite the fact that your emotions were not in alignment with like, I'm fine, it's fine, everything's fine, right? But you said, I choose to forgive you. And that had such powerful effects in breaking through years of being deadlocked in your relationship with your dad. And I know that we don't all have an amazing story like Mike, where we, chose to be obedient. We forgave. We took ownership for our part and, obeyed God's call for you to share the gospel in that moment, and then get to see your dad respond, right? Because there's times when we go to relationships and the other person's like, they just don't want to enter into it with you. Yeah. So that timing that you were so faithful for so long, and that there was such a reward for that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for letting me share that.
Absolutely.
It definitely is a journey. And I think Rachael today has given us some great tips on that. And again, you can definitely find out more about Rachael and all that she's doing at rachelflick.com.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us today on this episode of the Hopecast. I want you to come and find me on social media, and let's connect further on relationships and conflict resolution. I know that we can all relate to that on some level, and I look forward to connecting with you on next week's episode.
Rachael, thanks for having me today. It's been an honor, and it's been great.
Thanks, Mike. You're amazing.
You've been listening to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. To find out more, go to rachelflick.com. While you're there, you can book Rachael for your next speaking engagement. Her inspiring message will be sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or business function. Go to rachelflick.com to book her today. While you're online, you can discover more information about all of the platforms that this podcast is on. Also, be sure to click on the social media icons at the top of the page, and you will be directed to Rachael's social media sites. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate if you would subscribe and leave us a review. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for another edition of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.